Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I'm here today to tell you that being a game warden is the best career in the world. What is a game warden? Just briefly for those who don't really know. A game warden is a law enforcement officer who enforces certain conservation laws, like fishing laws, hunting laws, safe snowmobiling and ATV riding, litter, that kind of thing. I did have the privilege of being a game warden for 16 years in the state of Wisconsin. And one of the really great things about being a game warden is you get to work outdoors, you get to name your own hours, work alone, you work with a lot of critters, animals, fish, and you work with a lot of interesting people. Mostly people are just out having a good time, they're obeying the laws, and that's the 99%. The 1% are what I like to call the colorful people that use the outdoors. And it's this group of people that game wardens focus most of their attention on, obviously. Well, I was stationed way up in northern Wisconsin, way up in Bayfield, the tip of Wisconsin. And up there the woods are deep and mighty and dark. And there's a lot of those 1% people up in northern Wisconsin. So I spent a lot of time on those folks. And each county has the certain names of people, you know, like one was Sturgeon Joe, he was a guy who stole fish. But there was another guy called Shiner Bill. Shiner Bill, what does that mean? Well, in the state of Wisconsin, the deer hunters are basically the most colorful group of people. The deer hunting season is 9 days long, and the game wardens work pretty much 24 hours for those 9 days. Shining in Wisconsin can be done legally. What it is people go out with bright spotlights and they shine for deer. Some of these spot lamps are 1,000,000 candle power, by the way. It causes disruption to farmers in the fields and their cows. They go wild at night. But the other thing shiners do is they'll go out at 2 in the morning, let's say, and shine a deer, sit in the vehicle, shoot it with a .22, take off, come back when the coast is clear, and pick up the meat. So we heard about old Bill the Shiner. And I made it one of my projects to get Bill. I was stationed in Bayfield, Wisconsin, my very first year as a game warden. I was a brand new game warden right out of the academy. I'd finished my 2-year probation period. And I was sent up to Bayfield County in late October. That was just before the deer season. So basically my first experiences had to do with deer hunting. One night, my supervisor and I went out into the night. We started our day at 10 p.m. because it's between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. that you're going to catch the worst violators. And we brought the state squad truck, we backed it into a cornfield on Range Road. We knew Bill lived up in that neighborhood. And we tucked the vehicle into the cornfield, not too far from the road, and we waited. Now you have to understand, deer hunters in Wisconsin, it's like a rite of passage. A good deer hunter will do anything it takes to get a deer, whether it's legal or illegal. They'll hunt before the season, they'll hunt after the season closes, they'll hunt without a license, they'll hunt with illegal weapons, they'll steal a deer from somebody else's yard because they need to be able to say that they got a deer. Things come to a standstill in Wisconsin during the 9-day deer gun season. So my supervisor and I backed the truck into the cornfield, and we stood outside of it because you want to be able to listen in the night. You can hear things a long way off if it's quiet. Well, 2 o'clock in the morning rolled around. That's bar time in Wisconsin. And pretty soon we could start seeing activity way out in the distance. And sooner or later, we saw a light shining down the road. We could see it hitting the tops of the oak trees and the tops of corn stalks. We can also hear the tires. So if you're very quiet, you can hear the tires coming on the blacktop road. If you're really experienced, you can tell if it's a truck or a car. You can almost tell the brand tire it is if you listen close enough. And as this vehicle got closer and closer to us, we listened and waited for the right opportunity. And when it was about 50 feet from our position, we pulled out onto the blacktop and basically blocked the way of the vehicle. Well, we got the driver out and the passenger out. Everything was going okay. And by golly, I asked the driver for his license and all that, and it turned out to be old Shiner Bill. So Bill thought he was in trouble, and he was right. He was in trouble. By the way, Bill is his real name. I wouldn't use it if he was innocent. HIPAA violation, you know. So I was going through the process with Bill, and he asked me the strangest question. He goes, "Aren't you the brand new game warden who's dating my ex-wife?" And I said, I was kind of taken aback for a second. I was wondering, well, what's this game up to? And I said, well, who's your ex-wife? And he goes, well, you know, Marjorie. And now you know the story. My first arrest as a game warden was Marjorie's ex-husband, Shiner Bill. He tried to establish a relationship that night. He was going to try to get out of the ticket and all that, of course. But I said, you know, Bill, if I don't write you this ticket, my boss is going to do it anyway. So he accepted the ticket, and we went on with life. So I've got hundreds of these stories, of course, that I probably should put together into some sort of a book. But they would all sort of culminate into the same thing. It would be a champion book for sure. Yep. But one thing would be glaringly obvious at the end, and that is that being a game warden is the best job in the world. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. To evaluate Pat is nerve-wracking and exciting. As a new member who's been here many times, it's just really exciting to do this, so on with it. The objectives. First of all, he's working in Advanced Manual Humorously Speaking, which is another one you all will want to tackle. His objectives were to prepare a speech that opens with a humorous story, personalize the story, deliver the story smoothly and effectively. And this is project number 1, called Warm Up Your Audience. To go over the things that we liked, I loved, and I don't know how many of you may have noticed this, but Pat kind of stood up in the back as his introduction was being delivered. And it prepared him to just walk up and do a speech. And I kind of thought that was, I just loved it, so good job. I loved your description of the dark night as you came into your story. And I love the way you said, it's quiet, when you were introducing that night. And there was a moment where you paused and we were talking about that start of your work. I loved how you said Bill's real name, I wouldn't use it if he was innocent. Nice humor. And then, of course, your title, Best Job Ever. Until we hear the end, we don't know what that means, but the fact that you get to, you know, bust the X, that's great job. Some suggestions. The goal of this assignment is to warm up your audience with a story that's personal that leads into the topic of a speech. So the whole story was the speech. So that, we missed a little bit in that. It wasn't a warm-up to a topic. So that's kind of the big thing there. I would tighten up that beginning. You say, as a game warden, or start with, as a game warden, here's what we enforce. We concentrate on the 1%, and then boom, right into, oh, Bill the Shiner, and go into that story. That would take away about 3 minutes, and it would give you room for a topic to move into after the story. And then your delivery, your setup, this is something he's supposed to concentrate on with that joke, that last joke. The setup was excellent. Again, tighten that beginning, but it was excellent. Your delivery of the whole entire story was smooth and effective. You need a pause before that punchline. Then you need the punchline and a punch word, and then another pause. And you did that well. The pauses could have been a little bit more pronounced, a little bit more just absolute stand still, deliver, and then when you deliver that punch line, make sure that you hit the punch word of the punch line, and then a pause for us to laugh, and then finish it up. Otherwise, excellent. I loved your confidence, relaxed nature. You especially loved how that story did relate to our club and us as club members, because you brought in a club member who this story affected. And this really gets you ready for Project 2, where you need to leave them with a smile. And you've already mastered the ending. So, excellent job.
Thank you.